She said, "I'm letting my male best friend borrow your car for a few weeks. You can just take the bus to work." I smiled and said, "No problem, go ahead." So I took the bus to work. A few days later, her best friend kept calling me nonstop, begging me to take the car back right away. "Take my boyfriend's car." She said it like handing me the keys to a spare bike. I was in the kitchen, halfway through a cup of coffee. She didn't even look at me. I nodded. "Okay," I said. "Help yourself." It felt small to argue, and I didn't want a scene. A few hours later, she left with Mark. A few days later, my phone blew up. It was Mark, panicked. "Alex, the police have me. They say I stole your car." I stayed calm. He didn't know the car had already been reported stolen and that traffic cameras had picked it up on the highway. Within hours, the authorities had traced it to him. I stood still, the phone in my hand, and listened while he pleaded. I could hear the patrol car in the background. For a moment, I let the panic settle around his voice. Then I spoke plainly. "You were driving my car without my permission. I reported it missing." There was a long, stunned silence. I watched the screen, and for the first time since she moved in, I felt absolutely certain about what comes next. "I'm Alex. I work as a software engineer. I like having my own space, doing things my way, and earning what I have. The Land Cruiser I drive isn't just a car. It's something I worked years for. I take care of it like it's proof that I've built a solid life. Sarah, my girlfriend, moved in with me a while ago. She's beautiful, confident, and used to getting her way. At first, she said she liked how stable and reliable I was. Over time, I think that stability just became something she took for granted. The apartment, the car, the food, the bills, everything seemed automatic to her, like it just existed. Then there's Mark, Sarah's best friend. He's the complete opposite of me. Jumps from one thing to another, never keeps a job for long, always has a new idea or plan. He's the kind of guy who calls himself a free spirit, but really, he just depends on others to clean up his mess. Sarah has known him for years and always tries to defend him. When he gets in trouble, she's the first one to help. Mark comes by our place a lot. He makes jokes about how serious I am, or how my apartment feels like a showroom. Sometimes I let it slide, but sometimes it gets under my skin. I can tell he doesn't respect me, not really. But Sarah just laughs it off and says, "That's just how Mark is." Over time, I started noticing a pattern. Whenever Mark needed something, Sarah would drop whatever plans we had. If we were supposed to have dinner, and he called saying he needed a ride or a place to crash, she'd just say, "You understand, right?" Then came the car talk. Mark had always liked my Land Cruiser. He'd make comments like, "Man, one day I'm going to get one of these," or, "You don't even take it off-road, what a waste." I just smiled, changed the subject. I didn't trust him with it. He's careless. He treats everything like it's replaceable. One weekend, Sarah brought it up again. "Mark's going through a rough time," she said. "He wants to drive out of town for a few weeks, clear his head, maybe find some direction." Then she asked if I could lend him the car. I told her no, straight out. "That's not happening," I said. "I don't lend my car to anyone." She looked upset, said I was being selfish, that it was just a car. I didn't argue. I've learned that sometimes silence makes the point better than words. A few days later, she sat me down at the dining table. I remember it clearly. Her face was calm, like she was giving me an update, not asking for permission. "Mark's using your car." I gave him the keys. "He's going through a rough patch. I thought you'd understand. I didn't think it would be a big deal." For a second, I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. She had really done it, taken my car keys and handed them to her friend like it was nothing. I wanted to shout, to tell her how wrong that was. But then I realized something. She didn't see me as someone she needed to ask. She saw me as someone who would just go along with it. That was the moment things changed. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just nodded and said, "Okay, tell him to drive carefully." Inside, though, I'd already made a decision. If she wanted to treat what's mine like it's free for anyone to take, then it was time to remind both of them what ownership and consequences really mean. After that night, Sarah really thought I'd let it go. She acted like nothing had happened. Sometimes she'd even tease me. "I didn't know you'd be this easygoing. Taking the bus is good for you. Saves money, helps the planet." I just smiled and said nothing. Let her believe whatever she wanted. The truth is, I wasn't taking the bus. I still worked as usual, mostly from home, sometimes by taxi. She never noticed because she didn't care to look. Say in her mind I was being understanding, and that made her feel proud of herself. Mark, meanwhile, was having the time of his life. I knew because Sarah kept telling me things like, "Mark said your car drives like a dream. He's obsessed with it." I just nod, pretend not to care. But in my head, I was already working through the next steps. That night, after Sarah went to sleep, I checked the GPS. The Land Cruiser was at a resort 100 kilometers away. I called the police calmly and reported it stolen, giving all the details. Now the car was officially flagged and authorities could act. "Hi, I'd like to report a stolen vehicle," I said calmly. They asked for details, the license plate, VIN number, registration papers. I gave them everything. The officer confirmed, "All right, sir. The car will be listed as stolen in the national database." I thanked him and hung up. That was it. No drama, no confrontation. I didn't need to chase anyone. I just needed to wait. Cameras and traffic checks would do the rest. The next few days were quiet. I kept working, cooking, doing normal things. Every evening I'd open the tracking app. Mark was all over the place. Mountain roads, beach towns, posting photos online with captions like, "Finding myself" and "Freedom feels good." Sarah showed me some of his posts, laughing. "He's really enjoying himself. You're such a good guy, Alex." Not everyone would be okay with this, I just smiled. "Yeah," I said. "Not everyone." Inside, I was counting the hours. 3 days later, the phone calls started. At first, I ignored them. Then the messages came. "Call me now! Please, it's urgent. Police, help." When I finally picked up, I could hear pure panic in Mark's voice. "Alex, you have to come. The police have me. They're saying I stole your car. Tell them you lent it to me." I kept my tone flat. "Stole my car? That's strange. My car went missing a few days ago. I filed a report." There was silence on the other end, then his voice cracked. "What are you talking about?" "Sarah gave me the keys. She said you agreed." "I never gave permission to anyone," I said. "If Sarah gave you my keys, that's on her. But from a legal point of view, you're driving a stolen vehicle." He started shouting, cursing, begging me to fix it, but I said nothing more. I hung up and set the phone down on the table. From the kitchen, I could hear Sarah humming to herself while cooking, completely unaware of what was happening. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the phone, still buzzing with new messages from Mark. Everything was in motion now. I didn't feel angry, not even satisfied, just clear. This wasn't revenge. It was balance being restored. They'd both assumed my calmness meant weakness. They'd mistaken patience for permission. Now they were about to learn the difference. Later that evening, my phone rang again. Mark's number flashed on the screen. This time, I answered. His voice was trembling, almost breaking apart. "Alex, please, you have to help me. They have me at the police station. They think I stole your car. Tell them the truth, please." I listened quietly for a few seconds before replying. "Mark, I do not know what you are talking about. I never gave anyone permission to use my car. It was reported missing days ago," he stammered, trying to find the right words. "But Sarah said, she said you agreed." "She gave me the keys." I kept my tone calm and even. "If Sarah gave you my keys, that was her choice. Legally, it does not change anything. You were found driving a vehicle that was officially reported as stolen." There was silence, then the sound of him breathing hard, as if trying to understand how everything had gone wrong. The next morning, I went to the police station. Mark was there sitting in a corner, pale and shaken. When he saw me, he stood up quickly. "Alex, please tell them it was a misunderstanding. I thought you knew. Sarah said it was fine." I looked at him steadily. "Mark, I never said you could use my car." "I never gave Sarah the authority to lend it to anyone. From my point of view, the car disappeared, and I reported it. Everything else that happened after that is your responsibility." He looked like he wanted to argue, but the words did not come. The officers nearby were listening. One of them took notes. A few minutes later, Sarah arrived. She looked upset, almost angry. "How could you do this, Alex? You know I'm the one who gave him the keys." "Yes," I said. "And you did that without asking me. That is the problem." She shook her head, her voice rising. "But you could have told them. You could have fixed this before it went this far." I looked directly at her. "Sarah, you took something that belongs to me and gave it away as if it were yours. Do you understand what that means? You crossed a line." Her expression changed from anger to confusion, then to fear. She realized, maybe for the first time, that I was not going to protect her from the consequences. Mark started begging the officers to let him go. He kept saying it was all a misunderstanding, that he thought I had agreed. But the law is not based on assumptions. The car was registered under my name, and there was a report of theft. Whether I chose to withdraw the report later or not, the case had already been opened. Sarah tried to speak for him, but her voice was shaking. She was starting to understand that she had made a mistake that could not be undone with an apology. For a long moment, no one said anything. The only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the air conditioner. I stood there, calm, watching the two of them realize what they had done. Finally, I said softly, "This is what happens when you treat trust like it has no value." Then I turned and walked out. After that day at the police station, the consequences were immediate. Mark had to stay in a holding cell for a few days while the investigation ran its course. His reputation took a hit, not just with the authorities, but among friends who knew how careless he had been. Sarah had to face the reality of her decision too. She was shaken, guilty and scared, realizing that her actions had put both of them at serious risk. Even if I had chosen to withdraw the report later, the damage was done. The law had already documented the case, and Mark had to deal with the stress and embarrassment of explaining himself. For Sarah, it was a harsh lesson in responsibility, one she hadn't learned the easy way. That evening, I came home alone. The apartment felt heavier than usual. Sarah was there, pacing, still angry, but also on the defensive. "Why are you making such a big deal? It's over." Mark's scared. "You made him look bad, and now you're humiliating me too." I didn't respond. I walked straight to the bedroom, opened my suitcase and started placing her things inside. Slowly, methodically, Sarah stopped, stunned. What are you doing?" I looked at her calmly. "You chose Mark over me. You treated my property like it was yours to give away. This is the house I built, the things I earned. You no longer have a place here." She started crying, pleading. "You can't do this. This is my home too." I didn't flinch. "No, this is my home. You were a guest and you abused that trust. You need to leave now." I pointed toward the door. "Take your things. I'll send them to you later. Get out." Sarah left. The door closed behind her. For the first time in months, the apartment was quiet. I stood on the balcony looking at the city lights. No distractions, no arguments, no compromises. I realized something important. I had ended a chapter on my terms. I hadn't lost anything that mattered. I had only removed what didn't belong in my life. In the quiet, I could finally breathe. I knew one thing clearly: never underestimate someone who knows exactly what's theirs and is willing to wait patiently to protect it.